All right, it is 2:45 and this meeting will come to order. First thing is a roll call, and it looks like our treasurer is not here. Our trustees are all here and our attorney is here. The next thing is discussion to review insurance policy options or authorize engagement of insurance carrier. Regarding acquiring new insurance while we were dealing with the catastrophes at Post Falls and Athol libraries, I feel like someone was trying to coerce me that if I didn't do what some people wanted, that this will all be made public. Well, we do our business in public, so I expect that. CLN insurance was recently drastically reduced. Even with the supplemental insurance we purchased, we are still gravely unprotected in a number of areas. I want to ensure that our fiduciary duties are met and the library is properly protected, which it currently is not, in my opinion. Trustee Blank.
Are we started on discussion?
Yes.
Okay, then my question is that you just, your opening remarks led right into my first question. What are we lacking in our other insurance policies? What is the motivation for us to double up on insurance? Because I couldn't see when I looked at them, I couldn't see that they were doing anything but doubling up. I couldn't see where they were filling in. So can you tell me the places where we are lacking or why we need more insurance?
Okay, anyone else? Okay, well, staff has said multiple times that we are lacking employment insurance, a certain type of employment insurance, and what's the other one, that we are not covered for policies. And so, and I don't think that we need to double up, because looking through both the Great American and the iCrimp policy, both of them say, well, the iCrimp policy definitely says that that they would refund our money minus 35%. Which we're almost to that point in our policy anyway. Trustee Fox?
So I put up the iCrimp letter from August 16th or 18th, and it says it all right there. The first one, they dropped employment practices liability, but we did get that back with the Great American policy, a separate standalone policy. The others went from $3 million to $500,000. $2 million to $500,000, and iCrimp did not back off on this. $5 million to $2 million aggregate. So we have 500,000 coverage when we did have 2 million, and they charge us the same price. I know insurance went up. My homeowner insurance renewal that just came in the mail, looks like it's going up 33% in 1 year. Insurance is going up, but they didn't give us a quote of what it would cost to get the full coverage. And so not only did they completely drop one for employment practices liability, the others they reduced to 500,000, and they charged us the same amount. Our coverage is lacking, and iCrimp listened to our chair make a plea for reconsideration and politely said, I guess we're not going to do it, I guess. So we should have had, in my opinion, an alternate quote by the end of September for this, and it was delayed, and we finally have an alternate quote. I don't know if we have other quotes, but it expires at the end of today. So I was one of the two trustees that called for a meeting because I think we need to review it. This is maybe our one chance to get back up to 2 or the 5 million coverage.
Trustee Blank?
So what I see, can you scroll down to 4, please? Or, yeah.
That's the end of the page.
Oh, okay, thank you very much. Okay, so all of those are concerning liabilities. But a tremendous amount of what we're looking at is facilities insurance and auto insurance. So does our new Great American, this is to the director, does our new Great American cover those things that they've reduced up there? I thought that, I wasn't asking the trustee, I was asking the
It's only
director.
number one.
Director?
I'm not sure that I've seen that broken out in what I've read so far with the policy. I don't know if legal counsel has gotten to coverage for facilities and the amounts. The current proposal just gives a blanket like $12 million. It doesn't break it down like our ICRIP policy did. Our CRIP, like for this facility, insured it over $5 million for the facility. And so I'm not sure how it is fully covered at the same rate if it's $12,000 for the entire amount for facilities.
I don't think that, my question, my question is, are we still covered with ICRIM at our facilities level? Because this all
Yes.
looks like liability. So
Yes.
so this up here, what this shows is our insurance, our liability part went down. Our
Yes.
employment part went down. And we went and bought Great American to fulfill that, to fill in that hole.
No.
So we already have filled in that hole.
We do, yes, we do have employment and director and officer in coverage. And I can say that in reviewing the two other policies that we were presented, Great American and what we have is half the cost and is better than the other two policies. One of the aspects of coverage for employment is $3 million, and then attorney fees and other things. And it's a reducing policy on the other two policies, as I understand it, which means that any legal fees would come out of our $3 million total coverage. The Great American has an additional $100,000 for litigation fees and an additional $250,000 for FMLA specific coverage. So my understanding is Great American is half the cost and more coverage for employment. I would also point out that ICRIP breaks down auto liability inside the state of Idaho and outside the state of Idaho. Most of the travel done by staff is inside the state of Idaho, so this reduction only for outside travel is very minuscule, very limited occasion. We still have excellent auto liability coverage that meets our needs. Trustee Bloss?
So this was the Marsh quote right here, and it is only for employment practices and liability. And they did restore it to the, or they did give it the 3 million coverage. They are not giving auto. This is not auto. We have no extra auto than what ICRIMP did, where they reduced it to 500,000 liability. And he says in here, I'm happy to quote liability for insurance. Unfortunately, I do not have a quote for auto, property, general liability, professional liability that ICRIMP is specifically excluding. So, no, this for the employment liability is what ICRIMP is specifically
What's this?
excluding. Anyway, they are not covering auto. They're only covering the
So
drop
Great
liability.
American does not cover audit. Great American covers employment and D&O. ICRIP is currently our auto provider. And what I'm saying is that we have in our policy an auto liability for accidents inside the state of Idaho, and we have a separate line for accidents outside. This letter only reduced our outside of Idaho liability. 99% of the travel of staff in this district is inside the state of Idaho. So even though this is a change, it has almost no impact or risk to the district.
Trustee Blank?
So I still don't understand if we have filled in already our liabilities, these things that have been reduced from ICRIM with Great American, why are we going for doubling up with another? Are there other holes? We have no holes in our facilities. We have no holes in our automobile. So it's all our liability and we've covered it with Great American. So anything else we do, we're doubling up. Is that correct?
Trustee Fox?
I don't know what part of reducing to 500,000, you don't understand. ICRIMP reduced liability of all these things, 2, 3, and 4. And 2 and 3, all of those things are reduced to 500,000. Great American is only covering the employment liability, which is not, that's in number 1, that was dropped by ICRIMP. They did that for the same price as last year, nice of them.
Okay, and staff has said at previous meetings that we still have gaps and that we have reduced coverage. It's not sufficient.
I'm not quite sure what specifically that is meant by. I would say the largest gap and concern that I have that this insurance perhaps could provide would be the gap for harmful to minors. ICRIMP has specifically excluded that, and this board continues to dabble or play with our policy regarding collection selection. I think that it may be slightly disingenuous of the board majority, but having this new policy may cover litigation relating to harmful to minors where our current ICRIMP policy does not. I'm not sure if that would be considered ethical or legal or fraud in terms of insurance, but I do think that is one area that I would identify as in potential benefit for new insurance.
Trustee Hammond?
Yes, the harmful to minors or policies we're working on for book selection and so forth. I don't understand. I would like to know if another trustee knows the answer or the director. Are we covered in that area? Because we've already been threatened with lawfare at least once. And I don't think that the board majority is going to sit here and cower and be afraid to execute a new policy eventually. And so are we covered or are we not covered in that area? Because that's a curiosity for me. There's quite a pile of stuff here to do with insurance. It is complex. I will agree with that. So I don't know if we're covered.
Trustee Robinson?
Let's see. So I guess what I'm going to ask is, in the middle of us being covered for all the damage, and also talking about, because the damage is covered by ICRIMP, right? Okay. So us talking about changing insurance, and I know you said there's some sort of refund that we would get back. Is there a time frame where if insurance is covering you and it takes 4 months to finish the project here while that insurance company is paying for it, is there some sort of rule or code that you are still with that insurance? Or can you cut them, get a different insurance, and they're still paying it out because it happened while they were your insurance company? If anybody could answer that question.
Trustee Potts?
If this incident had happened on the last day of our coverage, they would cover it. They cover as long as the policy is in effect. And the policy was in effect when this damage happened. Changing a month later, 2 months later, whatever, is not going to change them covering it because they are obligated by the insurance contract to cover it because they were covering us then.
Director?
I would have a slightly different response. At this point, we have not opened up the walls. We do not know the full extent of damage. I could foresee some challenge between insurance coverages for what was covered, what was discovered after, whether it was part of the incident or not. I think it's messy and it's unnecessary.
Trustee Robinson?
And that was I was going to ask something similar to that, like if there is something down the road, like a wall is soggy inside and it sloughs off, and it's from that damage, but we're not with that company anymore, and the new company maybe wrote something in their policy saying they're not gonna cover anything from that incident. And again, I am not an insurance person. I don't even like the paperwork that comes with insurance. So I don't know these answers, but I know that insurance companies love to cover their on the best they can. So I just want to make sure, I'm not for or against changing insurance companies. It's just a horrific time right now, I would think, to actually switch them out if we're caught with our walls down in a few months.
Trustee Hanley?
I don't think this discussion on insurance is surrounding the recent event at the two different libraries. And we have rate offerings here. I guess they're fairly locked in, I guess, for some period of time. And they were not probably calculated based upon the current pending claim. I think that no matter who insures us, typically if you have a claim, sometimes even a small claim, rates go through the roof. So whether it's a good time to jump on an offering, which might buy us extra 6 months worth of non-increased rates, I don't know, but I would expect any damage that just occurred to be covered by our current insurer, ICRIM. But I'm mostly concerned with what we're not covered on if the library is sued for policies. And so I still don't know what is our limitation in that area, and is that covered?
Director?
Just a couple of points. Each of the quotes that we receive, I'm going to say have fine print. All of the offers are usually contingent upon criteria. I noticed one specifically said a copy of our 5-year loss. All of the policies, because I have filled out the forms, require us to disclose any potential litigation. They require us to disclose any employment-related items. The pending or the possible layoff would now have to be disclosed if we change for employment coverage. And then the insurance can adjust what they're going to cover, what levels they're going to cover. I would also just point out that one of the policies that we were given expired at 12:01 today, so it's actually already expired. That's what I have in writing, and that's what the board should be moving forward with, is an understanding. They also require the completion of forms, which have not been done. So again, all that list of disclosure, this is not necessarily in light of our recent changes since I filled out the application. I don't think we're going to avoid paying more for premiums. That is sort of the standard, that you have a claim and you end up paying a little bit more. I don't think that it's realistic for this board to make an assumption that this is the amount that they're going to offer us for the coverage that they're going to offer us in light of the recent situation and our increasing risk, which are related to employment and facility. This should not be just based on policy.
Okay, so the policy could have started at 12:01 today, but I was told that it would expire at 11:59 tonight.
The offer, the in writing documents that we have says that it expired at the end of the day. And so if you've been told something else, I'd really love to know by whom and when, since I think that is now public information.
Okay, yeah, I called the insurance company and that's what I was told.
So we've talked about that this is an operational and the communication should come through the staff and not trustees because of the continued ethical issue that the board is putting on this insurance. We have not gone through an RFQ. We have not gotten multiple quotes. We are attempting to change insurance, not even mid-year or at policy renewal. It is highly irregular and it is highly suspect.
Okay, I apologize. I didn't want to burden you with more. So I'll remember that in the future. Trustee Blank?
So I asked before whether the Redmond quote was something that doubled up insurance, just doubled it up. And that was quietly answered by the director, yes, she believed that it was. If that's the case, and that's what it looks like to me as well, that we're simply doubling up, that we are not necessarily filling in holes. The difference between a monthly fee of Redmond Insurance and ICRIM plus Great American is $3,400. So we will be increasing our insurance dramatically and not just, even if ICRIM lets us out of our second half of our payment. And I would like to know, this quote is not quite twice as much, but almost twice as much as what we are paying annually with ICRIM and Great American. And I'm not certain that we are not just, that we're not just throwing money down the hole. If we choose to use this, and ICRIM does forgive our second payment, we will still be paying an extra $44,000 in insurance this year for doubling up, unless you can tell me where else it can be helpful, except for the very small section that our director talked about. However, if we don't have policies that violate legal, that are lawsuit worthy, then we won't have a problem. But I would also like to know from the chair, where is the quote concerning reimbursement from ICRIM? Where I haven't read the policy, so I really don't know. Do you have that available so we can, because that would be a good thing to know.
Okay, it says page 8, but it's not the 8th page in.
This is on our, this is on
ICRIM.
there?
Yes. Let's see, it is.
Is this the MS?
It says section 3, general conditions.
Do you have a page number at the bottom?
It does say page 8, but like I said, it's not the 8th page in because there's other pages that are not.
What is the number at the bottom of the page?
It's page 8.
Okay.
General conditions at the top?
Yes.
Okay.
General,
Okay.
Section 3, general conditions, cancellation and non-renewal. Number 4 says you may cancel this policy by mailing or delivering to us advance written notice of cancellation. Cancellation will be effective on a later date of the date requested by you or the date we received your request. We shall refund all unearned premiums on a pro rata basis to you within 30 days of your cancellation. However, we shall be entitled to retain that, excuse me, not less than 35% of the premium paid, regardless of when such cancellation is effective. And we're almost at 35% now because it's been 4 months.
So I recall there was something in the joint powers agreement that we signed that also specified. So I'm not sure that that's a complete citation. I would ask legal counsel.
Sure.
Trustee Potts?
Just to reiterate, maybe we're doubling up on the first 500,000, but this liability coverage we have now only goes to 500,000. We're looking to increase it, and we're also would be looking to discontinue ICRIM. We may not be able to, but would not be doubling up on the Great American. That one is a commercial policy and it can be terminated. This one for ICRIM maybe can't, but it's not doubling up for up to 5 million. It's only 3 million, whatever. It's not. It would only be doubling the first 500,000, and I assume one of them would become secondary insurance at that point. But I would hope we would get out of it. And a little bit ago, one of the trustees said it's 6 months. Well, it's February 1st to February 1st of next year, so it's 12 months. This is a full year coverage. So I think it's something we should jump on because we have it. A quote in hand, yes, some of the paperwork has to be followed up on, but we restore full coverage and ICRIM, I I guess it's a government agency, so it can do what it wants, but I think it's not just that they would charge us for a whole year if we asked to get out of it.
Trustee Blank?
So, I have some confusion about this Redmond quote. It looks to me like what we ended up with, so we ended up with this municipality insurance proposal from Wright Insurance, which is in New York, and that is for $87,000. And in addition to that, we ended up with a Great American proposal of $7,500 for simply cars, autos, vehicles. So there's the Great American proposal for $7,500 is 26 pages and looks like the kind of proposal that I get in our business for our business insurance. The proposal that we received from this Wright Specialty, which is in New York, looks incredibly amateur compared to this. And I was talking to others about this, and we don't have in this this proposal. I don't know if did we not get all the paperwork? Is this it?
This was all that I received.
These 8 pages?
I included it in the packet.
Yeah. Okay, so for the $87,000, we get 8 pages. For the $7,500, we get 26. I'm not saying that that means anything, but one of the pages that they give us with Wright Insurance is for marine coverage. So I'd say it's down to 7 since we don't really need marine coverage. But one of the things that we don't have is we don't have a coverage section summary and on this Wright. So we have no idea on the limits of this insurance, whether they're shared or separate. Do we have any idea of that?
I do not, and I would say, like, it had a note on here, general liability exclusion for carnival, circuses, and fairs. Well, the library does attend fairs and does attend events. I don't have any more detail on that than these few pages that you mentioned.
So we don't have enough information to know how much they're covering us at all, because we don't know if they're gonna share this among all the sections of the policy or if they're going to cover it we have no idea what they're doing. I mean, this is such a limited proposal, it's breathtakingly limited.
Trustee Claus?
So the meeting we had on last month, I remember whether it was the 21st or whatever, we did receive the full Wright proposal. And this is it here on the screen. And it says it expires 2/1/24, which means midnight. 2/1/24 is when it expires.
That's
it
this,
does-
right?
Yes.
That's
It
the
does
7 pages.
It does have all the other pages with it. And
Where does it tell me whether the
Okay.
Limits of insurance are shared or separate?
all of this is listed in here. They got limits, premium.
Are they shared or separate?
Shared with whom?
Are they shared among, so if we take $3 million out of the property, then that limits what we take out of everything else.
What?
This is, so if the whole policy is for like $3 million and we take $1 million out, every other section is reduced from that. So it's not.
They cover up to 3 million. Here's the public officials management liability, 3 million.
What?
Are you talking about a secondary insurance,
Well,
another insurance?
No, what we need is somebody who really understands insurance and who can explain, because I know that this is not a good enough explanation. And if we accept this like this, we are being, we are not being, valuable to the community, because look at the other policies and see what,
Okay,
this
sure.
is simply just.
I have the floor, but it's 3 million it's listed as 3 million. I don't understand, what do you mean shared? And it's,
Can someone else help me by explaining that? Because I'm not an insurance person either, but I know that
But
makes a
this
big
quote-
difference.
this quote gives all of the details, and it doesn't list all the, I think they call them endorsements. They've got all these documents for earthquake, flood, blah, blah, blah. They don't include all that, and I think that's what you're looking at with ICRIM, is all these different endorsement documents.
I'm not looking for I'm looking at the other quotes that we received and how professional they are and how
We don't have
detailed they
any
are.
other quotes. This
We
is the
certainly-
only quote we have.
American
right.
Family is the other one, and then we got one from Kinsale.
That's probably the actual.
Trustee Blank, are you talking about aggregate versus each occurrence?
Yeah, I know that, I don't know insurance enough, but I do know that if we aren't careful, that it can sound like we have $3 million worth of insurance. But when we put in a claim, it reduces all the other sections. And if nobody around here knows, then that is absolutely a reason not to go for this policy, because we don't have enough information.
Director?
I was just gonna clarify in the email that it says, and I'll read it directly, this is from Jeffrey Winkler. This quotation expires 2/1/2024 at 12:01 a.m. A written request to bind must be received in our office by this date, or by the file will be closed. Coverage cannot be backdated. So again, it says it directly. So we do not have, in my understanding of this, a valid quote. And we would, if we take any action, we're going on the word of the conversation, well, this is what we have. And so again, I don't want to have any gaps in coverage.
Okay, so just real quick, I believe the Kinsale and the American Home Family or Family Home are part of the Redmond quote. Anyway,
They aren't actually. The only part of the Redmond quote is right here, municipality insurance proposal is for $87,000. That's the 7 pages. And the auto proposal is the American Family Home. The Kinsale is totally separate. And it is, I'm not certain why we received it, but it is also the professional looking quote. And not like, I mean, I have no idea. We don't have enough information, you guys, on this insurance.
Trustee Boss?
Okay. I was under the understanding that it was at midnight, the day of the offer, so I haven't seen that in the letter about 12:01 a.m. because I was led to believe it was midnight. But Trustee Hanley and I tried to schedule this meeting on Tuesday or Wednesday. We would have had 48 hours. Senior staff at the library did not notify us that they were going to be gone. There was no out-of-office notification. There was no email return. There was no voicemail set up. In my opinion, this is a real issue. The chair at least should be notified when the
Is this
staff is
related to
gone.
the insurance, or
And
did you want to take this
I-
into executive session?
I can, but I'm saying we had the opportunity to take this policy when it was still valid. And there was pushback. And frankly, I
maybe
want
we
to,
just
I want
discuss-
to vote,
hold on.
I want to vote to take this, to approve this, us doing this policy and let the insurance company tell us it's not valid. I'm not gonna walk away from it. I don't wanna walk away from it just because the opinion is it's not valid anymore.
Okay, thank you for bringing it back to the insurance.
I would like to address that since it was on the record and in front of the public. The last time I needed to take personal leave to attend to a family member, I was repeatedly questioned. I think it was dated 4 or 5 times. I was berated. I was treated very unprofessionally. I was repeatedly asked to violate the confidentiality that I am allowed and entitled to by the law. My recent absence was for bereavement leave, I was concerned to share that information with this board based on their previous hostile and offensive treatment of me on the previous occasion. There was no emergency. This insurance does not constitute an emergency meeting. I was given a text by the trustee chair, and I responded to it within 1 hour.
Trustee Henley?
I think, if there are issues regarding availability with senior staff, I think that
Again,
should
this
be
is not
addressed.
on the
Yeah.
agenda.
I think that
Yeah,
should be
let's-
addressed in an
Trustee Henley?
executive session.
Point of order.
Oh, I'm sorry,
We
didn't
should
hear.
only be discussing the insurance.
Very good.
I have that answer, Trustee.
Okay. Attorney?
Trustee Blank, on the right proposal, you were asking about the aggregate versus the
No.
each occurrence.
No,
Oh,
I am asking whether it is separate or shared aggregate limits.
okay.
That's what I want to know. Are they separate? Are the aggregate limits separate or are they shared? Are they separate, treated individually, or are they shared under one? If they're shared under one, then we get much less money than it looks like. That's what I know.
And I would just say that I know for certain for Great American and our employment and our director, we have those separate. And that was specified on the quote. We could take either option, a cheaper option or a slightly more expensive option, and those were separate. So I can say for a fact that Great American and employment is separate.
Okay,
But I do not have that same documentation. And I can say too, on the Kinsale insurance quote, I reached out to the representative from Redmond Insurance, and I have not received a response back. But I question the quote, the line, it says at the bottom, page 404, it's that top line, MLN Gen 3002-0916. I specifically requested more information by what was meant by exclusion of designated person or entity, and in parentheses, Regina McCree. And I did not receive any information on that.
Trustee Henley?
I'm a little concerned that if the policy offer is expired, I kind of feel like we're spinning our wheels for no reason. There's either an offering or there isn't that's valid. So that's a big concern of mine at this point.
Director?
I think insurance is a very large component of financial management and risk management. I don't think it's something that we should continue to move forward without clarification. Part of what is covered by an insurance broker is explanation and documentation. We have professionals that we can consult and get these questions answered. So to continue to also spin our wheels without getting any professional opinion on this seems not prudent and a waste of time. I would say again that there is some question about whether or not the board has the authority or whether this is an operational matter for the director to handle. I think that should be resolved before the board also takes action. I think that a mid-year policy change is a reasonable review or consideration. I think rushing to make this for the perhaps or uncertain idea that we might save money because we've had some claims now, but no certainty. Again, all of these policies come with disclaimers and a requirement to disclose, and I don't think this board fully understands the insurance process. And I think it's reckless for us to be seriously entertaining this at such an inopportune time when the library is in crisis.
During the same phone call that I apparently should not have made, I had called and asked the receptionist if they could extend the expiration time. So.
Trustee Henley?
Another thing that concerns me, I'm just curious, and I don't know this, is the policy that we have in place now with ICRIM, are we under any more operational control or constraints in doing our day-to-day business than we would be with the other insurance carriers. I don't know that, but are we beholden to them in some capacity? We have to get approval to do, let's say, pass different policies? Because if we are, I'd be less inclined to wanting to stay with ICRIM. We work for the public as trustees, and I don't want to be under constraints by some risk management company / insurance that tells us whether we have to ask that each time. So again, I'm asking that out of lack of knowledge. I don't know, but are we beholden to ICRIM's approval of taking different actions? So that weighs on me a little bit too in deciding. But again, if we're deciding on an expired policy, that's one thing. If the policy offering is still valid, well, then we have something to think about.
Trustee Robinson?
He asked a question. Are we beholden? I mean, that's,
Ultimately, even risk management makes recommendations based on their knowledge and best practices. I would say, no, there's no authority that they have over us, if that's clear.
I think that there are legal things that we have to do before we can do other things with
The joint powers agreement covers that we must work with them, we must listen to them, we must follow advice. I mean, it does spell out what we have to do, but I wouldn't use the term beholden.
Trustee Robinson?
So, and that's why I was thinking the joint powers part of it. In any of these new quotes, are you asked to have that same sort of communication with these other companies when it comes to perceived risk? Or I believe that you had mentioned that if we are redoing a policy, a significant policy, that ICRIM would want to review it. So is that, I think that's what you said. So would any of these other new policies ask the same thing from you?
Director?
The only information I have to answer that would be from Kinsale. They have a practices liability and they have a counsel that you can contact. None of the other companies, in the very limited information that was incomplete, was any of that information included. I would have a lot of questions about, right? And that is not included. As the trustee pointed out, it's only 7 pages as a summary. Some of the quotes we got included a specimen or additional information about what we would be seeing. This one did not. And so very limited information.
Trustee Blank?
because of that, such limited information, and because we do not have an insurance professional here, it feels, like other people have said, irresponsible and reckless for us to be considering any kind of action. Certainly continued discussion is acceptable, but any kind of action today would be very, very, very irresponsible with taxpayer money.
Okay, and thank you for raising your hand. That's something that we need to remember, that in order to have the floor, you have to be called on by the chair, and so get my attention by raising your hand or calling out chair. Director?
I just wanted to point out that the board packet today with 2 days notice was 269 pages. And so in fairness to me and staff and legal counsel, I'm not sure that I could state that I feel comfortable advising the board on taking action today without further review and further information. I'd really like my question answered as well. I will state that as part of my expectation in the formal letter that I sent out, email that I sent out, I asked for gap analysis, which is basically taking a look at what we have, what we would be lacking in, and that analysis has not been provided for us. I would also state that this insurance quote was more than a week past the deadline that I had set, and there had not been any communication letting you know this was coming. So I think in fairness to the insurance providers and their timeline, giving everybody more time to review this would be prudent.
Sure.
Trustee Fox?
So I've been looking, I'm a little confused why today's packet only had the auto coverage. I keep looking at that. I'm talking about only 7 pages or something.
Right here, it's what you had up there. It's this one.
Today's packet did not have much of anything for the quote. It was full of iPrint and Great American, which is just the policy we have. The one that we got at the last meeting, which I fully expected a special meeting to be called. I couldn't believe, but here we were, 2 days or the weekend before, and a special meeting hadn't been called to review it. That's why I asked for it. So I knew there wasn't time at the last meeting, but this needs, I would like to make a motion to approve accepting and directing the director to engage in this insurance policy from Redmond, and where it goes, I guess Redmond can reject it if it's expired. I don't know, but anyway,
Okay, do you have that in writing?
I'm writing it.
Okay,
I should-
because I had an alternate motion, which was that we bind the Redmond quotes today minus the standalone EPLI, and after verification is received, we have secured said insurance. The director electronically sends proper cancellation notice to ICRIM. I can move to substitute mine for yours, or, okay. Well, then I move to substitute the motion that we bind the Redmond quotes today minus the standalone EPLI. And after verification is received that we have secured said insurance, the director electronically sends proper cancellation notice to ICRIM.
Can I have a copy of that?
Can you repeat it very slowly?
Yes, I can read it. Yeah, we're just trying to get the motion secured first, I guess. That we bind the Redmond quotes today minus the standalone EPLI. And after verification,
Stop, please.
What's EPLI?
Practices.
Oh, is it on this?
Use down, what were the initials?
EPLI,
Is that the Kinsale?
that's employment practices liability insurance. And after verification is received, that we have secured said insurance, the director electronically sends proper cancellation notice to ICRIM. Okay, so it has been moved that we bind the Redmond quotes today minus the standalone EPLI, and after verification is received that we have secured said insurance, the director electronically sends proper cancellation notice to ICRIM. Okay, so I think we need to,
Have discussion.
actually, is there discussion on a motion to
Yeah,
substitute?
Absolutely. Is there a discussion on a policy? Oh my gosh.
Oh, sorry, there's so many things. Okay, so discussion then, trustee Blank.
Is EPLI, does that refer to the Kinsale insurance packet? I don't know what the EPLI is.
Well, I can't remember the Kinsale, but it's a standalone, so it would be.
Is that what this is? I mean, I think we need to identify which policy we are not looking at. Because the quote from Redmond did not include the Kinsale insurance. It included, the American Family Home Auto section, and it included the Wright Specialty Insurance. So are you excluding this Kinsale insurance? If you don't know, then I think it's too confusing.
Okay, well, I just wrote the EPLI, because that's a standalone policy if we didn't take
What
the
does
rest of
that
it.
stand for?
Employment practices liability insurance.
Okay, which is, yeah, okay. I need to know if it's, if it's this quote we got, is that's being excluded.
Trustee Hammond?
Yeah, I think, I don't know if it's underwritten or not, but Kinsale Insurance covered employment. It appeared up to $3 million at a cost of $14,922. And there was a $50,000 deductible. That's just a spreadsheet I made. I was trying to figure this stuff out. But I don't know whether that's covered with Redmond or not, or just standalone.
Okay, Director?
So from Redmond Insurance, there's a quote that says right, and it doesn't really have a page, but it says at the top, public officials and management liability coverage. The public officials and management liability premium is $13,075. This is duplication for what we have, is my understanding, with Great American. And I'm not clear in that motion if that is meaning the intention is to remove this section, or if the intention is to not move forward with Kinsale, which was a completely separate quote received by Redmond for just employment. So it's unclear to me with what you're saying, if you would be duplicating with Great American as well. I would need additional information. I would also point out that the board has not discussed deductibles, which I think is significant. Our current policy, our deductible for this event at Post Falls, which could reach in the million or more, is $2,000 per incident. On this Wright insurance policy, it's anywhere from $10,000 to $50,000 to $100,000. And I find it absolutely abhorrent that this board has not considered the self-insured or deductible in their consideration before moving to take action.
Sure.
Trustee Robinson?
This page here, are we going off of this in any manner? I mean, like, on the motion that was just made, is that this, like, the second grouping of insurance? Because it's you're saying Redmond Insurance, but minus evidently the Kinsale Insurance. So are we using this at all in our discussion? Or is this just something that is, sorry, go ahead.
Can I, Director? So on the table today, I did update the memo. On the back side is the original one, which was dated from October 19th. For fiscal year 2024 expenditure concerns, I've updated it to February 1st. I think there's an issue with the line numbering, so I apologize. But what I tried to do in preparation for today is to alert the board that in terms of the budget impact on that motion, we have $51,293 budgeted for insurance this year. We have committed to pay both ICRIM and Great American. There is some doubt whether or not a refund is imminent or it's at their discretion. Based on previous council's interpretation, it was stated that it was at their discretion whether that would be refunded based on the joint powers agreement. We are currently $7,362 over budget. With the American Family Home and we would be $107,000 over budget with the current proposal. I do have broken out employment and DO. American Family has $10,000 deductible and it's $13,000 a year. Great American, again, 3 million, and the employment and the D&O is separate with a $10,000 deductible, and is $7,362, and includes additional coverage or litigation costs. And the Kinsale is 3 million and has $50,000 deductible and is 14,000. And so again, this action by the proposed board would be putting us $107,000 over budget.
Trustee Blake?
If we get rid of iCrimp, we will be still spending with this new Redmond insurance, we will still be spending at least $3,500 more per month for insurance, which looks like it's very much doubling up insurance. It looks like it's very much what iCrimp gives us already. And unless we have a professional insurance person helping us walk through it, we will not know this because nobody here is a professional insurance person. But at this point in time, the difference between the two policies is about $3,500 per month. So you are committing to a $3,500 more per month without really understanding if we're getting more insurance.
Okay, well, I think that the new insurance can certainly be less than the cost of not being covered. Trustee Foss?
What's being left out in those remarks is that iCrimp never gave us a quote for full coverage. They didn't want to give it to us. So we don't know what their price would have been. We're comparing full coverage to this 1/10 coverage, 500,000 instead of 5 million. It's not realistic to say that we're throwing away money. All insurance has gone up. Personally, I would like to make an amendment to, I'm not saying this is the amendment, but I would like to remove the part about, I forget how the motion was worded about deleting the EPL. I would just take it the way it is. We can always cancel Great American, or we may find out that we don't even have this, but I don't want to take it off the table. I would like to make an amendment to remove from the motion. Was it?
The words was minus the standalone EPLI.
Minus the standalone EPLI.
Okay, I'm open to that.
Sure.
Trustee Robinson?
Thanks. Okay, so in the motion, I believe it's contingent on if.
Point of order. You just made an amendment. You have to go through that whole
No, he
amendment.
said he wasn't making the amendment right now. He said
Is that true?
was what he was.
I thought he made an amendment.
I thought I was doing it at the end, but I can come back and do it.
Yeah, he made an amendment at the end.
Okay,
Okay.
I thought you said that you would like to, but you weren't right now.
Okay, so just to restate it, I amend the motion that we remove the words minus EPL
Minus the standalone EPLI.
standalone.
Okay, it has been moved to remove the minus the standalone EPLI phrase from the previous motion. So if that were accepted, the motion would read, I move that we bind the Redmond quotes today, and after verification is received that we have secured said insurance, the director electronically sends proper cancellation notice to ACRA. Trustee Blake?
As discussion, okay, so we remove that, that is liability, the employment. So we remove that, we are now paying, first of all, the right quote has some indication that they are covering that. And we are paying Great American to cover that. And now we are adding one more policy to cover that. So now we will be having 3 policies that cover the same thing. And that is a phenomenal waste of taxpayer money.
Trustee Foss?
iCrimp does not cover EPLID. That was completely clear. They excluded it.
I
The
wasn't saying ice cream.
The only one that covers it is our standalone policy for Great American. we can come back once we find out if this is going to go through. For all we know, it's invalid quote. We can come back at the next meeting and cancel Great American.
Director?
So I don't know if the board actually received this full email. I attached the documents, but this was correspondence from Redmond Insurance.
Does this have to do with?
Yeah, it
Okay.
talks about Kinsale Insurance as a non-admitted company. Do we know what that means? I do not have full understanding of what that means. And so I'm gonna say this, desperately concerned that the board is making a motion to approve a company that is non-admitted. It also says that this has a deadline for 2/25 at 12:01. So this policy is not necessary to commit on at this point.
And which one was that again, the consent?
This was Kinsale. The correspondence says, I received a standalone quote for employment practice coverage. So I want to make sure that Kinsale is a standalone quote. The correspondence on the other was, I'm pleased to say, and he outlines the information, he calls it an invoice snapshot, an auto schedule, an SOV and IM schedule, and a proposal of packages and forms. In contrast, it does say that this American Family Home is an accredited company, and under terms, conditions, and subjectivities, it does say that it's an admitted company. So that seems to be a very critical point. And if none of us can answer a question about what the difference could mean to us in terms of financial or stability, or I don't know what that means. And again, there's a lot of information that we still don't have.
Point of order. I have a point of order. There is in Robert's Rules of Order a section on decorum and debate. And in that section under 4328, it is refraining from disturbing the assembly. And it talks about any action that trustees or board members make to disturb the discussion, the debate. Having that change all the time without everybody agreeing to it is disturbing.
Point of order.
Yes, so I would like to ask that we not have the screen change while we're debating, while other people are talking.
I guess we could bring that up and discuss it. Trustee Claus?
There's an amendment on the table, and we have completely neglected
That
that.
is true.
We need to vote on the.
Can I just make 2 more points? I just want to
And
make
it
sure
has
that
to do with.
Yeah,
the
I
amendment
just
that
want to
you
make sure that the board understands that in that sheet that I handed them, you would have to add the 107 to the 23 with the current amended proposal. That would be $130,000 over budget. And
This has to do with the minus the standalone.
Yeah.
yes, because it was 107,000 over budget. And again, now you have to add those 2 line items. So the adding in Kinsale is now over $130,000 over budget.
Okay, I think that we could leave it in there for now. And since it doesn't expire until 2/25, we can vote on it at our regular meeting. So, Trustee Claus?
Well, my amendment is to leave it in there with the understanding that once we get this worked out, we'll cancel. We'll cancel the Great American. We're not going to double up for the rest of the year.
Okay.
So please don't imply that we don't realize we're doubling up.
Your amendment was to remove the phrase minus the standalone
Yes,
EPLI?
which means leave the EPLI in.
Okay,
You,
but we don't need to bind that until 2/25, so we could decide on that one at our regular meeting.
except that it may affect the overall quote if you go take out market right now.
Okay, so our time for this section is up. We should either vote or continue it to our next meeting.
She's got a question. That she didn't,
I think that covers it.
go ahead.
Trustee Robinson?
Thank you.
Redmond Insurance is a broker, correct? Okay, so I'm just curious, and this has to do with the motion because it's contingent on if it's even still offered to us. I have a feeling that Redmond can't say yes. He has to get a yes from the other companies. And if he gets a yes from the other companies without letting them know what happened here, I can't imagine that would go well for him as a professional. So I just want us to consider that might be something that he otherwise might have been fine with giving us a verbal yes, but not thinking, hey, I need to let these companies know, where they're like, heck yeah, we'll back out right now and rewrite this. I don't know, but I would think that that's how it works in that world.
Okay, so we have the motion to remove minus the standalone EPLI. We ready to vote on that? Okay, then without objection, we are voting on the motion to remove minus the standalone EPLI. Those in favor, say aye.
Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Okay, it has been requested that we have a roll call vote on removing minus the standalone EPLI. Trustee Claus?
Aye.
Aye. Trustee Robinson?
Nay.
Trustee Blank?
Nay.
Trustee Henley?
Aye.
I think it's a nay for me. I think that should stay in there for now and we can vote on it on the standalone EPLI at a later time. Okay, so the motion on the floor is that we bind the Redmond quotes today minus the standalone EPLI, and after verification is received that we have secured said insurance, the director electronically sends proper cancellation notice to ICRIM. If we are ready to vote on that, Trustee Blank?
We do not have enough information on how if appropriate this policy is for us, especially the Wright Specialty Insurance. I don't even know who the insurance company actually is because it says Wright Specialty Insurance, then underneath it, it says Apex Insurances. I don't know. There's so many questions on this that for us to vote today is irresponsible and reckless.
Trustee Henley?
So is there such a thing as a conditional vote? Because either the policy as a whole is valid or is not, and if the broker, as in Redmond, made an offering, and I don't know if any of these actual insurance companies that they've gathered their quotes from, I don't want to sign off on Redmond and get 2 out of 3 companies that give us the whole coverage. So I'm a bit confused at this point, to be honest with you. I'm struggling to have a full understanding.
Okay, sounds like we may not be ready to vote then. Should we move this to a special meeting next week or to the next regular meeting? Trustee Claus?
I think there's nothing wrong with approving this and finding out from Redmond that some things aren't right or some things have expired and they have to get it requoted. So maybe we should make an amendment that approve promotion under the condition of no changes. If they make a change to it. So.
Trustee Allen?
I'm not sure. Can you make a second amendment to a motion? I don't think you can. I don't know.
Yeah, because right now we just have the main motion on the floor. Director?
I just wanted to draw everyone's attention to the subjectivities that said coverage cannot be bound until the following items are received, reviewed, and accepted in underwriting. And it's listing signed and fully completed public officials management employment practice liability supplemental. So I'm pretty sure that this proposal is a duplication of our Great American employment and D&O coverage, like I stated earlier, since under subjectivities, it's specifically calling that out, and that is my understanding. So the motion should probably include removing ICRIP as well as Great American, but I really don't think there is any justification, either financial or coverage-wise, that justifies that, since Great American is half the cost of what this policy is offering. Additionally, it's asking for building update information for all buildings constructed over 20 years ago, signed in uninsured and insured selection rejection form, signed statement of values, sexual abuse molestation coverage that's written on an occurrence basis, and a 5-year currently valued loss run. So these are all before anything can be bound, as well as the fact that it's an expired quote. I would also point out and strongly recommend that we are paying nearly $70,000, $80,000 for legal service, and I find it astounding that we would be spending $130,000 on a contract without consulting legal service. It is absolutely good fiduciary responsibility of this board to allow legal counsel sufficient time to review it and to respond. So I find it irresponsible and reckless that this board has not offered or opened up the conversation before making this motion.
Okay, we got these quotes on the 18th of last month, but anyway, it sounds like we are
We
not
also
ready.
had a,
Hold on, you don't have the floor. I think that we are not ready to vote on this and could postpone it to a special meeting or to the next regular meeting. Do we have a general agreement on that?
Sure.
We're past time.
Oh,
So I
well, I'm
think-
just, can't we just vote on it? And then it's not gonna be lingering out in the air for who knows how long?
Trustee Henley?
I think as you stated, I don't think we're ready to vote on it. I don't feel ready to vote on it.
you can always vote
Yeah,
no.
you can always vote no.
So those
My coach,
in favor of a general agreement to postpone it, or, yeah, I think postpone it is the right.
Call to, what's the thing called?
Okay,
what
so,
if it
What's the
expires?
thing called? Yeah, I wanna call for the question, please.
okay, the question has been called, which would stop debate and get us to the original motion. Those in favor of stopping debate, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the ayes have it. We will now stop debate and vote on the original question, which was that we bind the Redmond quotes today, minus the standalone EPLI, and after verification is received that we have secured said insurance, the director electronically sends proper cancellation notice to ICRIP. Those.
Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Okay, we will have a roll call vote. Those, so if you're in favor, say aye. Trustee
Lost
Blank?
his eye.
Trustee Robinson?
Nay.
Trustee Blank?
Nay.
Trustee Henley?
Nay?
Okay, so there, the motion failed to get majority. So we can bring this up again at a future meeting, and we will now move on to the next section. Authorization to expend emergency carry forward funds, which I believe is a moot point right now. Director? That's the case.
I would just draw the board's attention to that document because I still have expenditure concerns. I did, at the bottom, revise. I did do an average of our recent invoices from legal counsel, and I'm now, the October to January average is now $5,800 a month, or $70,000. So I am still expecting the legal and professional to be over somewhere in that $35,000 to $50,000. I think because the board continues to be discussing up to $130,000 for insurance, and because of the current, I'm anticipating expenses this year that were not budgeted related to the two facility catastrophes. And some of that may come out of our capital budget and some of that may need to come out of our operating budget. And I want assurance from the board before these cost overruns were direction I received was that it needed to still remain within the operating budget. And I would like the board to consider if they are taking any of these types of action that not come from our current operating budget, that come from unplanned or carry forward fund balance. And it affects the next line item, which is if there are any necessary changes in staff, I want the understanding that it's not going to be financially driven to make up for these shortfalls. And I'll kind of, if allowed, move into the next session that that is a difference in language between a layoff or a reduction in force. If we have no intention of replacing staff because of cost or financial reasons, that does matter. And so I will also mention that, and I will send more information to the board. I did receive just today information from the taxing districts. It was sent from the county clerk to taxing districts in Kootenai County. And again, I have not fully read this. I am receiving this now. But there was a House bill which appears to be intended to allow agencies to receive more taxes. There's two parts. One is homeowners tax relief HTR and the other is additional tax relief ATR. The sum of it is the ATR for the first half of the year for Community Library Network is $27,000. The HTR for the first half is $294,000. So we kind of mentioned in the budgeting process that sometimes funds come our way that we have not planned on. We have not received these funds, so we can't, in the sense that in the budget process and open hearing and things like that, but we do have additional funds that look like will be coming. And again, I just received this information today, so I will send it to the board. But I would like some assurance that if we need to spend carry forward funds for any of the items that the board is considering, these high ticket items, that we expend our carry forward with the understanding that we may be able to replace that carry forward and that we can preserve our operating budget as it was established.
Trustee Foss?
So I am kind of confused, but this sheet that you handed out with the carry forward is absolutely obsolete right now. You just received 2.77 million this last week from the treasurer's office.
Million?
Million, the first payment, and I can give you copies of it. So I don't really understand. The ICS should be 2.77 million higher now. I don't know why we have, I mean, that is carry forward if we take out the reserve funds and restricted funds. That's our operating budget. Yes, it's not in the budget. Some of these other things we'll have to adjust the budget, but with 2.77 million that just got paid in, I mean, the sky is not falling. This is obsolete. And I think all we have to do is just correct our budget, that we're going to spend more with insurance or spend more with the building or whatever. And I believe that's a different process to change the budget.
Okay, Trustee Haley?
Yeah, I think we're working with different sets of dates. If the trustee is saying we just got $2 million or whatever, and this statement or document we're given here is talking about balances as of the end of December. So I think we got two different sets of numbers we're working with, or two different dates in our statements. And it may sound a little radical, but if we do need to make adjustments to the budget, I might be more inclined to reducing book purchases rather than taking carry forward money, because we have a library that's shut down, two libraries that are shut down. We're going to be purchasing, I guess, replacement books using insurance money, And so, there could be an opportunity there to say, well, we reduce our book purchases for 2 or 3 months. We have nowhere to put them, at least at these 2 libraries. So, there you go.
Trustee Blank?
2.77 million we received.
So I think the trustee is referencing that we received our January payment from the county for property taxes. And so this was the carry forward balance that I handed out at the last board meeting 2 weeks ago. And so at the next February meeting, we will be including the updated information. I think the message I was trying to say, and again, I will send the email that I received today to the full board, is that we did receive some unanticipated funds that is to offset government agencies and was approved by the state. And so we do, it's a good day, it's a good thing that we have extra funds. But I just want to make sure that the board understands that we have a process to go through for the budget since it was unanticipated. The board can choose to either add that to our funds this year and amend the budget and put that in operating, or put it in carry forward essentially, or just essentially not spend it. And so there is going to be further information coming about this, but I want to make sure that the board has an understanding that there are going to be unplanned expenses that are not covered by insurance that are coming, and it's already pushing our budget. And I do not have $170,000 for insurance and lawyers in the operating budget. There's not that much wiggle room. And so the board will need to either expend some of this money that we're about to receive and put it in the budget, or they will need to agree to expend carry forward and then the process of receiving this money. So more information is coming. It is a good thing.
Okay, so the time is up for the authorization to expend emergency carry forward funds. We're now on the community library staff layoff, reduction in force section. Staff insisted that this be done today so employees aren't in limbo regarding their employment status since Athol and Post Falls will be closed for 4 to 6 months. As painful as this conversation is, I understand we don't want to leave them in limbo. I feel that the director is closest to the situation and most qualified to make a judgment on laying off versus furlough versus reduction in force. I think this should be the director's judgment call. And anyway, but one other factor in there is that when the board raised employee wages, a trustee said something like he wanted to pay the employees well, and we should streamline jobs to help cover that. I wouldn't think that a reduction in force is the way to retain the best employees, because that just deals with the people at 2 branches rather than retaining the best employees and letting go other employees who are maybe not quite as stellar, not to say that they're bad or anything, but anyway, Trustee Plons?
So I want to put the brakes on this conversation and go back to the beginning. 2 or 3 weeks ago, we got email and then got the press release about the water damage and pictures of the flooding. This is totally out of the blue to me to find out that 2 libraries are going to be shut down for 6 months. I don't understand. Please explain why we don't have some of these nice barriers here that keep the citizens away from us. Why can't we put these barriers up and just don't go into these areas? Why does the library have to be shut down? Why can't we operate? If you need to have construction going on, why can't that part of the room be closed off? Why do libraries have to be closed down?
Do you want me to answer that?
Yeah, go ahead, Director.
Your question speaks to being a very new trustee, and so I'm going to try to say this very respectfully, and please do not take offense. The libraries at Post Falls had thousands and thousands of gallons of water from the fire extinguishing system dumped onto books. We have about 80,000 items in our collection here, and about 10,000 items have been impacted, which means direct water on top of them, in them. Library books that have gotten wet will mold and have mold spores that are airborne. We have air circulating in our HVAC system. We are working right now to remove the completely damaged items. We are averaging about 1,000 items a day, so we're working very hard. The entire library's collection, which is valued at over $3 million for this facility alone, is in danger of mold, and there's an extremely high level of humidity in the building. We do need to remove the carpets. We need to remove the drywall. We do have a tour planned and some additional information. You see air scrubbers in the corner. They're not on right now so that we can meet in order to make this a safe and habitable space for staff. Being on a construction site with drywall, they're going to do concrete sanding to replace the carpet. Those are not habitable work conditions. It is not safe. The extent is at least 4, 5, or 6 months. All of the books need to be removed before demolition and to preserve them so there's not mold damage. It is an extremely lengthy process and an extremely expensive and laborious process. So it is not possible to have the public in a construction zone that affects the entire library.
Trustee Hammond?
I'm not sure, but I'm assuming it was the director that had this item put on the agenda, and so the item reads, community library staff layoff reduction in force. I'm interested to see what is being proposed.
Yeah, it could be interested also.
So I put this on the agenda, and I also included an information sheet in an email that talks about the difference between furlough, layoff, and reduction in force. I also included in the board's packet the personnel policy section 7 that outlines reduction in force. The administration and I are doing everything we can and exploring every option to avoid staff layoff. We are being very creative, but I will state that ICRIMP will not pay staff for business interruption or any of that type of coverage. The governor did not declare the storm an emergency, which would have kicked in additional business interruption coverages. So we do have a more limited capacity in some ways. The difference between a possible layoff or furlough and a reduction in force is really intention. And it is not my intention to lay off or have staff displaced or relocated without bringing them back. I fully intend, if that does have to happen, even for a limited time, I do fully intend to bring everyone back. And I want to make sure that if I'm making that statement to staff, that this board is then not saying that it is their intention to reduce positions this budget year. And if this board will not identify, there are only 2 budget line items that can withstand $150,000, which the board is considering expending, that is not budgeted, and that is collection and that is staff. So I would like to hear for me and on behalf of our staff that the board has no intention that they will either take collection or take carry forward or expend the funds that we're about to receive that were not budgeted, and that I can make an assurance if anyone has to go home for even a brief amount of time that they are coming back.
Trustee Hanley?
I still haven't heard what the director is proposing. Are you proposing how many people laid off, furloughed, or reduction in force? What is the proposal? Because this is a taxpayer-funded business. It's not an employment center. And while I respect workers unquestionably, If there isn't work because the library shut down, I don't expect to have people on a payroll and not going to work. And I don't mean that it needs to be busy work or fill-in work, but what exactly is the director proposing? This is not my item on the agenda. There's a reduction in force or layoff on the agenda. It was proposed, I assume, by the director. And so if the chairman wishes to get answers on that, that's certainly would be helpful to discuss something that's, we don't even know what's being asked for.
Trustee Blake?
I'm wondering if it's, I'm wondering if what the director is asking is if there is a commitment to this board to supporting the choices that are made, and if the choices that are made, and it will not be the board's intention to reduce the payroll at this point in time, so that the director has the opportunity to make the decisions that need to be made. I'm not sure that you can make them right this minute. I'm not sure that you can figure out whether it needs to be people need to be laid off. I mean, there are things that happen. One day we think we have nothing. The next day we find out because of one thing or another, we have a need for a lot of staff. So I think that what the director may be asking is a commitment from the board to support the decisions that are made.
Trustee Fox?
So back on this 4 to 6 months, I don't understand why you're getting direction that you can't put up plastic clear up into the upper ceiling area and seal it off. I've seen this in construction areas. I don't understand why part of the library can't stay open, even if bookshelves are moved into this room and we give up meeting rooms. Why can't the library stay open for one wing or one part while the other part is being worked on? I don't understand the 4 to 6 months, but as far as my position, I never intended to reduce workforce to make up money. The salaries are budgeted and are in there. But I do not want the library district paying money to somebody if all they're doing is, if they're not doing any work for the library district. So if there's not meaningful work for them, then I think you do have to do some kind of temporary reduction. But I just don't understand why we can't, even if we could find a place to rent temporarily and move bookshelves into there, why you can't keep the library open and keep the employees employed. And I would be asking for this. This did not come from the board to ask that for furlough or for layoffs. So please find a way to keep the library open and maybe try harder or explain why this wing can't be open. But if the plastic barriers can be put up, why? I mean, buildings can be airtight with plastic barriers.
Okay, so there needs to be like massive air circulation all the time. Is that a big part of it?
So I think part of it is the visual, and when the trustees tour the facility, to give people that have been to Post Falls and Athol a visual sort of visualization of it. There was 2 inches of water throughout the entire Post Falls library, which is over 20,000 square feet. So it goes from the entry at the circulation desk, the children's area. I'll show you the line. There is about an 8x7 square that did not get impacted by water in the far corner. This entire library has essentially been destroyed and needs to be repaired. There is some, if you've done construction, aspect of cost and efficiency. If you're sanding concrete, if you're replacing drywall, we cannot have open exposed drywall in the public in here. The first step is demolition, and the demolition is going to be significant. And then it's about managing the project and restoring it. the library, we will look at opportunities for partnerships and programs and services and things that we can do. But I think it's very, I guess, ugly to say that the staff aren't hardworking right now. And I would characterize it as also ugly that, this is a crisis. We are handling wet books right now, and we cannot address, we do not have an estimate on construction. We do not have a final schedule. We do not have a contractor secured. I can just tell you from talking to people that they are saying it is 4 to 6 months. It is massive. It is an undertaking. It is millions to do this. And so I think the tour will be great. I just want to make sure that in putting this on, it is my authority. It is my responsibility to manage the staff, and I am prepared to do that. But what I need from the board is along what Katie said. If you're going to spend $160,000 and not have it in our budget, then I need to know that's not coming out of that staff line item. I need to have an assurance that we are going to take it out of the collection or use carry forward or use revenue that we received that we did not anticipate, so that I can tell staff that it is not a budget decision. It is either a workload decision or it is temporary. But by the board putting this topic on the agenda with $160,000 that has not been budgeted, I want to make sure that we're on the same page about intention and that we are not intending to make staff position reductions.
Okay, and by the board putting this on the agenda, you mean the insurance thing, because we didn't put this part on.
The insurance,
Okay.
$160,000 potentially, the motion was significant, and that is totally unbudgeted.
Okay,
Sure.
yeah, and I just, okay, next.
Sure.
I don't think that it's reasonable to have the libraries open while all the work is going on and everything. And it sounds like the director's proposal was that you wanted to furlough? No?
And just to be clear, I am still running down opportunities that I can't really speak about right now that would allow us to perhaps get funds. I'm not prepared. I don't have enough information to make a decision. I think there is work to be done, and it can be valid work. I have not been able to put together a proposal. Things continue to change. Again, we do not have a contractor to move books. We do not have a contractor assigned. There are too many moving parts, and so it is a possibility, but it is one that we will only undertake if there are no further options.
Trustee Robinson? Sorry.
Oh, thanks. So the director's looking for assurance that we're going to, as the chair mentioned, let her, since she's the one that is in the know about the employee situation, to make the decision, basically. So I understand you want that insurance that we're not going to say, now that they're gone, don't bring them back. And I know some trustees, all of us obviously, want to hear your plans. If you even had plans at this moment, which you just said you don't, is that something you could even tell us in detail at a meeting, or is it not? Plans when it comes to what you would want to do with the employees.
Director?
The appropriate process would be for administration to consult with legal services. I've spoken before about the need for human resources support and employment-related support. And so it is possible to discuss plans with the board. There may be some information that I could not disclose for confidentiality or for attorney privilege, personnel related. If I can, I think legal counsel might be a better person, but I am happily transparent in as much as I possibly can be.
Thank you.
Trustee Fox?
Maybe I'm missing something, but as far as the insurance, my intent was to have, I thought we did this in January usually, an adjustment to the budget. I thought we had another meeting about the budget and we made amendments to it. I mean, we haven't made amendments to the budget, but isn't that an appropriate way to handle it, to take some of the 2.77 million that came in and the budget just gets reallocated or gets redefined? And I don't know why that wouldn't be the option for us instead of changing or digging it out of the existing budget.
Trustee Blank?
The 2.77 million, as far as what I'm understanding, is exactly what we would have expected in January. Is that correct? That is already budgeted in our budget. I mean, that's what we get in January. Yeah, that's the money we get.
I gave you guys two numbers, and I'm just gonna say 260,000 as a round number. We received $260,000 that we were not anticipating from the treasurer, and that was to offset
It's just normal practice.
funds. And I will be sending more information. And so there are a couple ways to handle that. We can spend the money, and then at the end of the year, on the auditor's word, open the budget, and there's a process for public accounting and budgeting. And that's why I said it's a little bit more complicated than that. We did not receive $2 million that we now have. We received $200,000 that we now have. So just to be clear, that was our anticipated property tax revenue that we asked for. So just to, again, I don't want to have a false sense for anyone. We did not find $2 million. We had $200,000 that we received, and it was not possible to estimate what it was because this is the first year that we're receiving it, and we will receive it in 2 payments, and more information is coming.
Trustee Blank?
I just want to reiterate that we get our large check from the county in July and January. This is what that 2.7 million is. I have no idea. We never sit and change the budget for that. We've already budgeted for it. It's already within this budget this year. So there's nothing, this isn't, oh my gosh, we've just got a huge windfall. This is absolutely anticipated. I don't know how to say that more clearly. And it's not to be confused with, it has nothing to do with the extra money that the director has just been talking about. That is just an extra 200,000 plus windfall.
Sure.
Trustee Fox?
I am well aware that this was expected, and this is the first half property tax payments. I don't know, I suspect it's higher than what we anticipated in the budget. I don't know. I'm not saying that that it's an extra we didn't expect it. All I'm saying is please don't tell me that the carry forward is 200,000 short. We now need to be talking about the carry forward, what's going to be left in a year from now or 11 months from now. The 2.77 is our operating for the rest of this fiscal year, plus what we get in July. So I just don't want to hear about the carry forward being short 200,000 and so forth, because we just got it replenished. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, so if the director is not ready to make a recommendation because she doesn't have enough information, I think the board probably really isn't prepared to make a recommendation. But I would just like to say, that being the case, anyway, there's no guarantee, but a reduction in force is certainly not my first or even in a preferred category of how to deal with things in the upcoming year. So we have just a couple more minutes of this section if you guys want to make your final statements. Trustee Hannah?
I'd like to make it clear that if we did have a reduction in force, I have no desire whatsoever to use that as a tool to reduce staffing later on. It's simply a business decision. Either there's full employment and work to be done with the staff that we have with the hours that are normally allotted to them, or there isn't. And if there isn't, then they shouldn't be on the payroll indefinitely just to watch construction get done or a renovation in the building. So that's where I'm going with this. And again, I didn't put this on the agenda, but if a reduction in force, a furlough, or whatever the other term is here, a layoff, is appropriate at some point, that's fine. I don't like it. It's ugly. It's painful, but I would never use that as a tool, as a staffing reduction, and any kind of long-term plan or to save money. It's simply a business decision. We're running a government operation, and it's either full employment, a job to do with the hours that are allotted, or there is not. And if there isn't, then there should be a proposal made, in my opinion, by the director to the board to say we need to reduce staffing by X amount for this possible duration. Thank you.
Anyone else want to make a final statement? Trustee Robinson?
Yeah, I somewhat agree with that. And I do believe that the director, after carefully looking at the whole situation, and it is fluid, will make the right decision. If after 4 months, when everything's done and maybe something's more automated or something, and you find that we don't need the same amount, then so be it. But I'm fully on board that everybody would come back. I don't feel like I'm thinking, wow, what a great opportunity this is to get rid of people. Obviously, if there's nothing for them to do, they shouldn't be at work. But yeah, I don't see it as an opportunity to permanently get rid of positions.
Trustee Claus, final statement?
I agree. I'm not looking to do a permanent reduction in force, and I implore you, the library staff, to try to find a way to close off part of it or move to another location, do something to try to keep the library going and keep community served and people employed. I've certainly been in work facilities where they're clearing out for asbestos, and they don't clear the whole building out. They seal off one part of the room or one part of the building and for asbestos, and they put airflow in to have low air over there, or high air so that air goes out or something. Anyway, there are ways these companies have to do this, and I really hope that you can find a way to make it work and keep the library open.
Trustee Blank, did you give your final statement, or
Did
do you want to know?
No, I'm very supportive of, I think the director will make, just having had some conversations, will make some excellent choices about staff appropriately. I think when we go on our tour, you will see a library is a different kettle of fish, perhaps.
And I would just close in thanking each of the trustees for their thoughtful comments. This is a highly anxious and highly emotional time for all staff. And when you see it, I expect for you as well. I think that your reassurances are going to be well met by the staff, I hope, that they have your support.
Okay, then we will move on to the next section, Athol and Post Falls facilities update.
Yeah,
And tour, I have no further update.
I think seeing the library here is probably a good start. I don't know if I spoke enough about Athol yet. The Athol event was a ruptured pipe, and so the water entered the facility at a lower level, so we didn't have as much collection damage. However, there was still a significant couple of inches of standing water. The Athol Library has more furnishings that were impacted. A lot of their tables and displays are particle board, which does not meet water well, and so it is essentially more furnishings damage there than it is collection. The collection impact was minimal. The carpet is substantially destroyed as well. Both properties properties had carpet that was over 20 years old. So at least we have the assurance that it wasn't new carpet that we destroyed, it was old carpet. So that said, I think just seeing the library would be beneficial.
Trustee Henry?
I'm curious, I look at the press release from the January 18th the board got, and it appeared that Post Falls was the first event that happened, and then Athol second. When did it occur? And meaning what time of the day or night, and who or how was the staff informed about it?
The Post Falls Library occurred on January 14th, which is a Sunday. I believe the Athol Library occurred on Tuesday, the 16th.
So was that what it was?
So the board's first press release was relatively quick after the events.
Madam Chair, I'm asking when, I know it was the 4th, let me see, it did say in there, it was Sunday the 14th. I'm curious, when did the event take place, and who and how was staff notified?
So staff were preparing to open. It occurred at about noon, and we did not open for the day. I was contacted, and several other staff were contacted. I arrived about when the fire department was leaving, about 12:20, something like that. Staff received an email letting them know that Post Falls was closed. When it came to Athol, we were closed for the Monday holiday, and we entered the building and discovered Athol in the morning on the 16th.
Trustee Henry?
No, the reason I'm asking is because I spent a lot of years as a facilities manager, and typically the fire suppression system, the sprinklers, are attached to the fire alarm system, and I would expect that the fire department would have been the first ones to show up on the scene because there's a change in pressure in the system. Is that how it? I mean, there should have been a bunch of fire trucks out here. I would assume if there was no staff here and somebody should have been called. I'm just more curious as to how this thing transpired in the beginning.
Yeah, staff were on site, and I'll just clarify that Post Falls has a full fire extinguishing system, and we are notified, staff are notified as well as the fire department. The Athol Library only has, I think, a sprinkler in the mechanical room, so it's not a fully sprinkled building. And so in that case, staff were here and were able to respond when the fire department came. So.
Okay, if there are no further questions, should we adjourn before the tour since the tour is not safe for the public to go on?
I would if the board isn't agreeable.
Okay, I would entertain a motion.
I'll move to adjourn.
Okay, it has been moved to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it's unanimous, and we are now adjourned.
So